That's coming up next.
My God, it heals me when I'm broken. Strength where I've been weak. Praise His holy name. Somebody ought to celebrate the awesome God.
This is Praise FM, the power and the glory.
Dear church, remember me.
Welcome to Mind Your Business, a program strategically designed to equip you to be your brother's keeper. Here are your hosts, Pastor Leroy David and Elder Alvin Flora.
You would have told me, so come on and tell somebody about you.
Greetings to you, our friends, our listeners, our viewers. We are happy that you remain tuned and you kept your appointment. It's Mind Your Business. And we're happy that we can bring you another exciting episode today. It's program number 21, and the subject today is Yesterday's Child, Tomorrow's Parent. I'm curious as to what the wealth of information we're going to share with you today, and how you can use it for our development and shaping the island St. Lucia and you listening all around the world. And our objective today, of course, is to help our viewers and listeners understand that character is not formed from nothing, and thus we must be deliberate in helping our children mature into solid citizens. And and so that's important. And of course, you who are parents, you who are guardians, you may have troubled children around the neighborhood or working with children anywhere. It would be important that you call others to join and listen in, especially with our guest today whom we have. Certainly we will be blessed by it. Our subject text is coming from Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6. It says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. That's from Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6. I think every child, every school child learns that early, just as you know John 3:16. And the reason why we do Mind Your Business, of course, is coming from Philippians chapter 2, verses 3-4, which says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, rather in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interest of others. So we are looking after each other. We are each other's keeper. And so that's why we do Mind Your Business. Please remember that you can call in at the appropriate time. You will be able to call us at 452-1011, 461-9647, which is our WhatsApp number. You can call, you can send voice notes, and we will be happy to hear you. On our email, of course, is myb.praisefm@gmail.com. And also join as well with Elder Flora, our other host on the program. Welcome, Elder Flora.
Yes, let me say welcome to everyone this afternoon on Mind Your Business. A very exciting program awaits, very informative, and it's something that we all need at this time as a society. So, of course, let others know, as Pastor David said, let others know that we are on, and it promises to be exciting and informative. And so you can call, and you will get a chance to interact with us and our guests as we move forward in this program. So let everyone know Mind Your Business is on this afternoon. Let us bow our heads as we begin with a word of prayer. Father, we thank you, dear Lord, for your blessings on this Wednesday. Dear Lord, we pray that your continued blessings may be upon us as we open this program. Dear Lord, we pray that everything may go according to your plan, according to your will, be for our listeners, be for our hosts, be those operating and helping as well. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Of course, last week we were very fortunate to have our manager who served as our guest host as we discussed the topic mental fitness, and it was a very engaging topic where we discussed some scenarios and how we can fortify ourselves mentally. You can always go through our YouTube and Facebook pages to just get a review and capture the moments and the discussion and take something from there that can help you in terms of your emotional and mental well-being. And it's a discussion that we can explore, Pastor David, in future as well, as to how to remain mentally fit. especially as you deal with different stressors that come in our lives and how to manage that. This afternoon we have an interesting person in our midst.
That's a good interesting.
Yes.
A good interesting.
Yes, of course.
Yes, and we are happy to have, especially with the program that we're going to have. So we have an expert with us, a truly expert. I would have met her, and I was, intrigued, just very pleased with who and the information and her character and her heart.
Right.
And I thought, listen, she needs to be a blessing to others. To others.
Yes.
And so I said, let's bring her in, and you welcomed. And so I'm glad she's here. And let's keep her, a mystery. But let me introduce who she is to you.
Okay.
And I'll give the name at the end. Of course, she is an education management consultant with extensive expertise in educational leadership, special education, early childhood education, policy writing and training of trainers. She has a wide range of consultancy experience. She has more than 40 years experience in diverse educational fields, extending from infant to tertiary levels in St. Lucia, Barbados, and the United Kingdom in both the public and private systems. She served as a former chief education officer. Upon formal retirement, she remained active in education and engaged in her talents through involvement in various voluntary organizations. However, she has continued to work with various organizations as an independent consultant in the region. Her received training in character education in the U.S. and continues to expose others to character education through workshops. She's a trained mediator, a certified board director, the recipient of the St. Lucia Medal of Merit Gold for Service in Education and Community, and the 2013 Rotary Award for Community Service. She has authored 3 children's short stories, a Caribbean cookbook for tuna, a Lucian Experience, the Parenting Manual for St. Lucia, and a series of booklets on promoting family literacy, as well as contributing by having a published chapter on character education published in Peace King. She served as chairperson of the Board of Governors of the St. Lucia Sir Arthur Lewis Community College from 2011 to June 2016, and presently serves as the deputy chair. She has a real passion for underprivileged males and consequently spends time sourcing funds, organizing workshops and summer camps with emphasis on character building for youth at risk. She is presently the facilitator on 2 programs, Our Boys Matter, for the St. Lucia Social Development Fund, and Community Orchestra and Choir at the St. Lucia School of Music. She has keen interest of justice and believes that everyone has a voice and should be listened to. Retirement in her books is freedom to chart another journey and to thoroughly enjoy the grace, mercies, and power of the Almighty.
Amen.
Listeners, friends, viewers, I introduce and welcome Mrs. Fortuna husband Anthony. Welcome.
Welcome, and thank you ever so much, Pastor. It's a pleasure and a blessing being here this afternoon. I will attempt to share my years of experience with the listeners, and I hope they will find the information shared workable and doable.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So we are happy that you agreed to be here. You know, and as I read through, of course I would have met you through SSDF. It seems all you do is work. So, is work fun to you?
Well, work is fun as well as work is not all that I do.
Right.
I have a passion for, growing things in my backyard. Right. So I'm normally in my backyard growing my green bananas, etc., etc. I also am a very creative person. I spend time painting, so you'll see 1 or 2 small paintings at my house, my handiwork, as well as I use the talents that I have been given by the Almighty, producing foods. That's why I wrote the book Fortuna, A Lucian Experience, and I do many other things. So God has been good, and I feel totally blessed to be able to use my creativity and my talents and be able to manage time.
Lovely.
For some
So
reason.
that was an invitation to house, by the way, if you all didn't pick that up.
Yes. She said,
house?
she said,
Yes, yes.
I
The
caught that part. If you come home and you see, you'll see.
The yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Instantly, when you said about the gardening, I felt close to you already.
Definitely. A lot of the time
Yes.
is spent there talking to my plants, etc.,
Right.
etc., you know.
So is it safe to say you're not only all of that, but you're a farmer as well, and you are a chef?
Whatever. Cooking is my distressor.
Okay.
Cooking is a
beautiful.
distressor for me, you know, so I spend a lot of time experimenting with food.
Right. Yes, and that connects our program last week in terms of mental fitness,
Yes,
because
yes.
even in times of work and stress, you can get some time to have fun and to remove those stressors from your life by doing something that you love, apart from
Exactly.
something that you really love.
And I think this is what we need to teach our young people, our young career-oriented persons, that they must make time for self. They must make time to be able to do the things that they enjoy.
Yes.
And along with it, I will share that there must be a high level of spirituality. You
Lovely.
have to look after your spiritual health. So persons in my prayer group will ask whether I have not slept, because I believe that I must wake early in the morning.
Right.
And we know that this is what Jesus did.
Right,
He woke
right.
early in the morning, found a place of peace and quiet, and prayed. So I wake early, and then I share. I have a prayer group. We meet, 4 of us. We meet and we pray.
Right.
So this is something I believe that we all need to keep that mental health and keep the balance in our lives.
Right.
Without God, I don't think anything is possible.
Amen. Amen. So I just added on your
CV?
intercessor as well. Prayer warrior.
Prayer warrior, yes,
so-
that's what I'm told.
Yeah. So I'm glad for that. Maybe later I'll ask the question, because I'm happy. I'm always impressed as how you always, in any of the conversation, you would have brought in the fact and highlight the need for God and spirituality, and I'm always impressed, because often it seems society seems to put God on the side, or forget him altogether, or try to drown him in all things. And so even throughout the program, we'll see how important that is. But I'm happy that how important God is, and we can't escape him by God's grace. Beautiful. Well, we have a few minutes, so we'll go into the program so we can capitalize on with you.
Yes, go
So
go
you're
right
doing the
ahead.
scenario first, or going to the questions?
Yeah, let's do the scenario.
Yes, so there's a scenario here from we started discussing last week. It says your son wakes up in the morning really cranky and sucks his teeth every time you ask him to do something. So we were discussing, what do you do in a situation like that, where you have a child wakes up in the morning very cranky, and as you speak to the child, you instruct the child consistently sucks their teeth. How do you react in that situation?
First question would be, how old is that child? Because we have the developmental stages,
Right.
and the way you approach, let us say, a 2-year-old, which is a terrible 2, as opposed to how you're going to address a teenager or an adolescent or a pre-adult,
Right.
will determine how you speak with them. But in all of it, I think communication is very key. The parent's behavior, the non-aggressive,
Wow.
the non-labeling approach is very, very important. Now, this scenario speaks volume as to what is happening in the household. How has that child been nurtured?
Right.
How has that child been raised? What is the bond between the parent and the child? Where is the respect for authority? Where is the, where is the good morning? How have you raised and nurtured that child, that regardless of the child's age, this child is going to respond to you in such a negative and disrespectful manner? I raised 3 children, and up to when they were all adults, they still would know, once they lived with me, nobody goes out unless, whether I was there or not, a note was left.
Mhm.
I was raised in a household where my father's mantra was, no matter what time you go and what time you return after you have partied, nobody sleeps unless you go to church. So rules must be clearly laid out for children. So the upbringing of that child would result in this. So a parent would need to stop, consider, am I going to be aggressive? Am I going to be patient? Am I going to wait for this child to cool down? Well, no matter what age, to cool down and say, can I have a conversation with you? And the conversation would be, is there something wrong? How can I help you? Or the conversation would be, you got up this morning and I noticed that you were not very happy. You were very cranky. Did you sleep well? Did you not sleep well? What can I do to assist you? And then take it to the next level. If the child is prepared to speak, you let the child speak. If the child is not yet ready, you say, well, I suppose I'll prepare your breakfast. Do not punish, which is the way a lot of parents, you think you're a man in my house or you think you're a woman in my house, so, no, this is not the route to go. I will make you your breakfast and then you can think about it, but I'm there if you wish to speak with me. I think this is the kind of communication which is so important. Positivity, not negativity. Okay?
Okay.
Good.
Beautiful.
I would imagine that parenting styles have changed from your time, my mom's time, across to our time. But what I'm hearing from you is that there are foundational principles that is universal, like the laying down of rules and communication. So no matter what your parenting style is, there are foundational principles that must be applied to every household.
You are definitely correct in that the foundations are laid. This is the first home, the first school that any child has. And whether you are rich, whether you are poor, whatever it is, you, as I said to some parents, you are the government. You must govern your home by laying the rules, the regulations, and you involve the children. You don't do it in isolation. If you're going to lay rules and regulations down in the home, the foundation, you bring in the children. Because children now are different to my time. In my time, you should be seen and not heard. Now the theories are saying you need to let them have a voice. Because from conception until they are born, the process of understanding is just that when they're born, some of them are not able, they're not able to articulate.
Right.
But their body language will tell you they understand. So you have to lay that very solid foundation for the children at home.
So using that same scenario, would the approach change if it was just one time this happened, or is it a continuous action?
Parents must, like teachers, observe their children. The power of observation in education is very, very critical. So you would be looking to see, is it the first time? Is a pattern developing? And then you develop the kind of strategies to handle. If it's a pattern developing, when are you going to put a stop? How are you going to put that stop to this behavior? And again, it comes right back to communication. If you, the parent, feel that you are inadequate, who do you turn to? Who is your support mechanism?
Right.
So these steps are so very critical when we are dealing with the children. The parent education is also very, very important. I have done many, many workshops, and parents will say to you, I was never taught those things. I was never told those things. It is just like I'm in teaching. I'm able to understand that a teacher cannot give what he or she never had at home. But you can always teach and you can always learn.
Right.
That is why training and workshops are so very important. I had a workshop, and a parent was very forthright, and she says to me, I am so glad I did that workshop, because my son left home, but now I'm having the same problem, but now I know
What to do?
how to speak to my daughter, what to do with my daughter so that I don't lose her as well. So it is so very important that we don't just deal with children in isolation to the needs of their parents.
Wow.
They come together.
Wow.
Yes?
So what if, I'm sorry, just one more question on that scenario. What if the contributing factor to that behavior is something that is outside the home?
External, yes. It is critical that as parents, you know who your children are with, who they speak with. I remember as a young parent myself, when children came from school and I was cooking, they were always at my feet, and I would be asking, what happened in school today? Who did you speak with? What did the teachers say? So you keep that communication and that bonding with your child. So I knew their friends. You encourage them. You go out on the block. If they were to go to a party, I would have to know the household where they were going to. And these things should not change. These are the fundamentals to parenting, that you must know who your child mixes with. You must be prepared to go to PTA meetings, to call the teachers, to have a conversation. You come and you meet the child outside of the school gates, no matter what age, every now and then, and you see who they're coming with, who they're associating with. So you would know whether it's something external. But again, I'm coming back to having the time to communicate, giving the child the opportunity to speak with you. You know, if you know you cannot cope, you find somebody, because there must be trust for your children to open up to you.
Correct.
You know?
Fantastic, yeah.
We are getting some wonderful insights already,
Yes.
and I'm listening keenly. Pastor David. I notice I'm listening keenly, and you know, you don't have to have it. Yesterday I met a gentleman in the gym, and we were talking about, he doesn't have a child, and he was talking about parenting, and it's a deep thing to consider when you're considering being a parent. So persons who are listening, you may not have a child, or you know, you have plans to. It's important to listen and call someone to join the conversation. So we've mentioned child development, character development. What is this all about, child development?
Child development, the stages from conception to when that individual becomes an independent member of society.
Right.
You're taking them through various stages. A lot of persons don't recognize that from conception we are beginning to shape that fetus, that human being. And I have been speaking to parents frequently in the last couple of months about the impact of their own behavior on that fetus. When you are angry, you are affecting that fetus. There's a lot of negativity. You have to watch it, because the hormones that you are putting out there internally will be affecting the outcome. So that is why experiments have been done. The latest research in the UK is to find out whether the fetus responds to external stimuli. And they were correct in that. When they inserted the thing and they put on the music, the fetus started to move and dance.
Wow.
So we know what you do before this child is born is very, very critical. And I always plead with parents, especially our single young parents. When you become pregnant and the gentleman is not with you, do not become so angry that the unborn child begins to pay the price.
Wow.
Because you want to give birth to a healthy, normal, happy individual. But if you are going to be angry because you are pregnant, your whole psychic changes. The hormones in your body changes and you affect that child. Children who are born to parents who are happy and welcoming, you can see the children really are born and some of them are smiling, they're ready to take on the world and this sort of thing. So from the very beginning, we, the adults or the parents, have a responsibility to shape in that child. The other stages where the child begins to understand, no child is born as an empty slate. We are the ones who do the positive or the negative connectivity to the brain by the stimulus or the stimuli we put into them. Okay, so if we provide them with positive experiences, the connectivity in the brain is so much better. You have the joy, you have the sadness, because the brain is made up of a whole set of wires. And if you do not do that connectivity properly, you can damage that child's future. Okay, the child pays the price of our own haphazardness or whatever you want to call it. So we need to be able to, as the child gets older, okay, you have the terrible twos, they throw tantrums, they carry on, you know. But as parents, we need to know how to deal with them. Then you have your pre-teens, you have your teens, you have the adolescents where they think that they can rule the world. But there's nothing wrong with that, because we teach them to dream, we teach them to want to have an independent state of mind. But parents still need to provide the guidance along each stage of their lives. A lot of children, we find, are losing their sense of self because we, the adults in their lives, are not guiding that sense of self. We do not take them to church. We do not pray with them. We do not make time to sit with them, whether it's one or two or three, to become a family, so that we can begin to teach those children about the ways, the good things in life, you know, to build their character. Because the formation of character does not just become. We have to create the environment. And I have always said, poverty is no excuse for children not being raised and being nurtured properly.
Agreed.
You can be poor, but you know, you can get your children, even if the house is not big enough. You know, you sit under a tree, or you sit outside, or you squeeze up in the living room and you pray together. You give praise and thanks. That is where you teach some of the character building traits, contentment, happiness. You can't take them to the cinema, but you can take them by the beach. That is free. So these are some of the things.
And even better.
Yes, we want to do as adults and as parents. Now, I want to interject here and say that anybody can parent. You don't have to give birth to be able to parent a child.
Okay.
And any adult who understands the fundamental of how the children are shaped and formed can parent a child positively. Okay?
Right. So the statement you made there, because there's some persons who believe, I mean, I don't have children, so having children or taking care of children is not my business. What do you say to that? There are some persons who believe that I don't want children, I don't want to interact with children. Is there ever a time we do not interact with children?
There is never a time in our lives when we don't interact with children. We have friends that will have children,
Siblings.
and siblings, and you know, we become a godparent or something like that. You need to know how to interact, how to shape, how to nurture. What is your role, whether you have not given birth to this child? And if your role cannot be one of positivity, where you are going to demonstrate and model the right behaviors, then, you are not going to be doing that child any good. So you must always, as an adult, whether you have children, you're a member of a community, we understand the statement, it takes a village,
Right.
When I was growing up, you couldn't pass anybody without saying good morning. You didn't just say morning. You said good morning, And if you didn't, before you got home, your parents knew. So but now you literally have to ask some children to say good morning to an adult. So things are changing, but we need to go back. There are some traditions that we must never give up on.
Amen. I agree.
The Bible is very clear on that. So that as we shape a child's character, loyalty, trust, contentment, compassion, it is through interaction with their community and with people around them that those things happen. A child, we human beings, we are animals that must interact with each other. And whether you have given birth or you have not, you will at some point in time. And when you do, my request is always be positive.
But are there boundaries for the village or for the person who is parenting a child they have not birthed?
Yes, there will be boundaries, and there are different boundaries that can be set. If you're a friend of the family, sometimes the mother or the father will say, you take charge. But sometimes you will, in conversation with a good friend, the good friend will say to you, give you a scenario about the child. You will be able to advise the parent, but you will not be the one to. There are some things as parent or parenting does not allow some people to do. That is, you will not go into the home and take charge and wants to start disciplining. If you see certain weaknesses in the home, as a friend or as somebody who is interested in getting that young child on the straight and narrow, or that adolescent on the straight and narrow, you speak with the mother. You sometimes can ask permission. If the mother feels she's not capable, she will ask you to take charge. And then you would then be able to say to the child, I think we need to have a little conversation, because it's always a conversation. So, but you don't just barge in and take charge if you're not the natural mother.
So I'm living in a community. There is no relationship between me and my neighbor, but I happen to see the neighbor's child involved in some bad behavior. What is my first response?
Your first response would be to try to. You should not be living next door. Anyone don't know your next door neighbor. In the first instance, they are our source that we reach out to. So whether you, I will always say you are not in and out of the person's house, but it's your neighbor that you can speak with, because all those around me is neighbor. I call them neighbor, so we talk, and you would say, I observe.
Right. Okay.
So that's how you do it. But this business of us living in communities and we do not have interactions with those around us, it's not good. It's a bad sign for a community.
That's right.
Now, although when they asked, and as you spoke about it, about observing, is it the community's responsibility or quote-unquote business to mix observation in any weaknesses, whether in parenting or in a child?
Of course, it's the community's business. Children and raising children, in fact, interacting with each other is our business in this life.
That's right.
We've got to make it our business to look out for each other. How far we go in the involvement of ourselves in other people's business is another thing that you have to stop. and think about.
Yeah.
But it is our business as community to observe, to see, I live at Marigot. The boys are going up and down the hill. I hear them cursing. I go by the gate and I say, don't let me have two. That's all I have to say. Okay, miss, this sort of thing. I might know one or two of them. Most times they seems to know me. But, it is our business to help shape each other on the positive road.
Because when you think about it, you're still indirectly impacted by whatever your neighbor do.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I will always remember what Elder Flora always says. So in that, it is them who's going to marry his daughter. So if you're not showing any interest in that child, or then your neighbor's child, or your daughter's children, it may very well be the persons who's going to affect them, be involved in
their lives.
So if you don't care now, you may regret 10 years, 20 years down the line. And the next question I want, since you spoke to it, the parenting, and I think when you asked it, so the externals, those who think that is not their right to parent or to get involved, I'm thinking of this. A child is on on a bus, and he or she puts his hand in his pocket and recognizes that, oh my, I forgot my bus money. I've been in the situation where I hear people say, well, that's your business. I don't care. I'm not your mother. I'm not your father. Can such a situation impact a child negatively, despite having good foundations at home? So that rejection, or the fact that no one wants to own up as a responsible adult in that situation, can that, whether rejection or rejection, affect a child?
If a child misses his bus transportation money, and there are adults on the bus, I would think, out of the goodness of our hearts as adults and persons who may have children or may not have children, we want this young one to get home safely. That we would say to the bus driver, I will pay for that young child. This is what society is supposed, or how we are supposed to support each other. We must always stop to ask, what is the right thing to do? It's not because we have every other thing happening and creating chaos that we add to the chaos. As a responsible adult, I would think you would want to, if you had children, your child to find themselves in that situation, for another responsible adult to assist that child. So you would pay the bus fare, or you would say to the driver, well, probably let him ride on the bus. When you get close to his home, he should be able to go to his mother or somebody, Or the bus driver might decide, let him ride for free.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, so the persons who may be listening, it's interesting that we're hearing this afternoon. We've heard it before that anytime a child is within your space, you should be paying attention to this child, and whatever you do should be a means of positively influencing this child that's around you. So whenever a child is around, put your antennas up to see what's going on with that child, and try to find ways in which to be positive when you do interact with children. I've seen a lot of people, when the children around them, they don't take note of children. Okay. A lot of people operate that way, and it's not a good thing. To say that you're not a parent and you're not, because I didn't birth this child is none of my business. Invariably, all children are our business, and we have to be contributing positively to them. That's what we're hearing this afternoon. That's very good words, wise words that we're hearing this afternoon.
You mentioned earlier, and I noted it, you said parents need to take their children to church, not send them to church. There's a big difference. What are we teaching our children when we send them to church and not take them to church?
The message is clear that you're not interested in their spiritual development, and you're sending them because you think you just get rid of them on a Sunday morning. But if you take them and while you're going, these are things that I did without probably understanding it when I was raising my children. Whenever we got into a car, there would be conversations about where we were going, why we were doing it. The whys of parenting is very, very important. Why are we going to church? And you have this kind of conversation about the spirituality, about the impact of learning, about how Jesus was raised as a young child himself, his own family, and this sort of thing. You take the Bible stories and you bring them into real life situation with the children. You know, I remember when school was reopening in September, Archdeacon asked me to do the sermon. And, you know, this little girl ran up the aisle. And I was too happy to use her as an example of a little child coming to church, but having the freedom to move about, which made her very comfortable. And we must allow the children to become comfortable to come to the house of God or to come to church. So as she grows older, she will understand at a certain point in time when she sits down to listen.
Right,
but
okay.
for now, she's only 2 or she's only 3, and she is free to move around the church. The kind of restrictions that sometimes we want to put on children is not necessary. It does not really allow them to understand and value. So you say to the parent, you know, if you were going to just send them and they come back and that is it, there's no value in that.
So, wow, that's deep, because I'm thinking that parents put in restrictions in order to guard their children. However, depending on the nature of the restriction, it could be dangerous.
That's right. That's right. You know, if you're going to restrict the child, this little one, she goes and she picks a flower and she comes right up to give it to the archdeacon. Okay? It tells you and it speaks volume. She is being made to feel welcome and comfortable. So you are not going to say, sit down, and you try to restrict her, because after a while, she doesn't want to come back, you know.
Right.
Because I don't have that kind of freedom to move around. And I am sure through the parenting that we do, we have a program called the Cradle Roll, where we work with the parents with the babies before baptism and stuff like that, that they understand and they're able to value. When the child leaves the pew and walks up and down, what do you say afterwards on your way home? You know? It was nice. It was a good thing. Did she enjoy the singing? And then as she gets older, you begin to say to her, then you will have to learn to sit quietly. Because for us parents, one of the characteristics we must develop is patience, a lot of patience in raising children. If not, you begin to label them and you begin to throw them off balance. So you have to have the patience.
So it's developed during parenting. You don't get it before parenting.
During parenting, you know, a lot of siblings will tell you, I literally had to parent my brother or sister, you know. And so you see in some of them, because the responsibility of parenting should be that of the parents, because we do not want children raising children.
So here's what I'm saying. Parents have to develop patience.
Yes, a lot of it.
I am hearing this, and I'm also hearing, and you use the example of a maybe 2-year-old running the aisle, and I'm sitting here, but I'm in church, and I'm seeing this 2-year-old running up and down in church, and I'm hearing the comments, and then I'm seeing the orders, and I'm hearing people ask, but where is the parent? And, you know, making comments and stuff, and the look. And then I'm seeing now the parent now who may understand, listen, I can't restrict that child. That child will begin to think this is jail, this is punishment going to church. And I'm seeing now he or she is under pressure to restrict that child because of the looks and because of the impatience of others. Now, how do I deal with that aspect with my child and the pressure that society puts, even within the community of the church?
Well, it depends on how your congregation is being educated and taught how to receive each other. A lot of it has to do with that. I have not seen any negativity or any bad looks. In fact, everybody smiles when she comes up, you know, and this sort of thing. So you as the parent, I do not think you should feel that you're doing what is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
She's not screaming, she's not shouting, she's just coming up and walking and she's looking and you know, that's what children do at that age.
Right.
So you shouldn't want to limit or anything like that. As I said, as she grows older, you'll be able to explain to her why she must sit quietly or why she must sit, why she must sing, and this sort of thing. The conversation is very critical.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd imagine there's a limit to that scenario. Let's say there are several 2-year-olds and one, you know, there's a domino effect with children. One does something and somebody else comes to do it and join in. So one runs up the aisle, the next one follow, and the other one follow because they're all, you know, a clique. And playing, disturbing the other worshippers. How do we deal with that?
Oh, well, I have seen one or two parents pick up the kid and they go outside for a little while, give them a little water, etc., etc.
So this is what is recommended?
Yes. I would recommend if you notice that they are now going to use the aisle as a playground, that as the adult or adults or the parent there with them, that you know, take them, because I've always said, even if it's church they're coming to, you have a little water, a little juice, and you quiet them down, you know, or you take them outside, you know.
And that's an important observation you've made. So whereas you ought to be careful, understand that's what children do, but you must also be responsible to understand if it gets out of hand, that the responsibility is on you to take that child and, you know, bring it for a break.
That's
so
right.
to allow for the and that's beautiful. That's good.
So I'm thinking of the invitation from God telling us to come, let's reason together. Is there an age limit where a parent can reason with a child? Can a parent reason with a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old?
From the time the babies are born, they're ready to take on the parents. It's just that they can't articulate it. They just can't articulate it. But they use various means of what I call manipulation. And if you are not the parent who understand the developmental stages, you have been bathed, you have been fed, I put you down in your crib or on the mattress, wherever it is, there's no reason that you should be screaming and bawling. And you have to know when to pick up that child and when not to pick up that child. Because if when he starts to scream and shout, he doesn't have a fever, because you normally would feel them, you know he's not hungry, you know, you look and see that there might not be any bruises, any bites, but it's a manipulation.
This is very important, because I know that I'll tread softly when I say this, because I have 2 men in the studio.
Take your time.
You're just 3.
3 men, fathers would tend to give in to the child quicker than the mother would, because the fathers, I hope I don't get calls, the fathers would, not yet, the fathers do not want to hear the crying, they don't have the stomach for it. So they tend to give into the manipulation.
I don't think it's not having the stomach. I think it is that they do not understand the developmental stages and the dynamics as to why they should or shouldn't, and they think the first thing is to pick up that child. And children love that. They will every time you put them down, they'll scream and shout and carry on. So we have to know the limits. My daughter, I sometimes say, I take my hat out to you. because it is children, you can just get them into doing things, okay? Because you are setting the boundaries, you are setting the rules and regulations. Bedtime is 7 o'clock. So when 7 o'clock comes, it is bedtime is prayers, story, and thing. Nobody leaves their room, okay?
Right. And what about a child who's crying for a certain food, a chocolate or something, and the parent decides to give in to stop the crying? Even that teaches the child, well, I can
manipulate you.
Yes.
I'm in control. This is what is wrong with a lot of the parenting in our society. We think we can appease them by giving them things, and that works well. No, it doesn't. You have to set boundaries. You have to set limits. I said bedtime is at 7 o'clock. It's 7 o'clock. I said no chocolates, no sugar, no this, no that. You set the boundaries, and you have to maintain it.
Yes.
So, So I'm hearing this, right? I'm hearing this, and that's easy at home. And I remember one of our presidents says, children, yes, that's what I'm coming. Children test you. So I'm now in the supermarket. And
don't take it personal.
You have an audience.
I have an audience, and this child is doing this
tantrum.
And I have had cause to say to, because I've seen it many times, Miss, can I speak with you quietly and nicely? Just leave the trolley and take him or her outside. Okay? Don't make this kind of scene there, because, he'll win.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do. That's the motive, is to win you by embarrassing you in public. So it's up to you. The trolley might be packed. You put it down. You take the child out. You bring him or outside, and you give a stern talk. But some parents want to do it in the supermarket. They will be beaten, they'll be lashing, they'll be raising their voice. That's not the way.
And that's just a reaction to the embarrassment.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
I'm ready to be a
parent.
After today, I'm a master. Yes. I never thought, that never occurred to me.
To take them out?
I thought of it for church. Easy to take the child out. But here in the supermarket, I'm saying, but what do you do?
Yeah.
You see, and you're almost embarrassed for the parents, and you're like, man, what do I do? Yeah, but the same thing. Just take that child and just go out.
Yes, you leave the trolley in the side. You as you go out with the child.
Check you 9 months from now.
and you don't drag the child either. You lift that child out because normally it's the young ones.
Yes.
I have also seen very positive parenting. I think last week, this little girl, she must have been about 6, and she went off and took something off the shelf, and all the mother, and you can see there's some good foundations at home. One look, and she was
back on the shelf
with it. And the mom said, you did not ask, and I did not give you permission. You see? There's the difference in parenting. The mother could have raised her voice, but she just gave her the look, and the child understood. And then she called her and she said, you did not ask, and I did not give you permission. So
well, I saw another dynamic here. You picked that up. So it means other parents are watching you.
That's right.
And children are watching you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mind your business.
Mind your business. I go to the supermarket and then I hear, Granny. And I know it's my grandchildren who have seen me come in. So they rush in to come and greet Granny. So other people are watching. Oh, that's your grandchild? Yes, that's my grandchildren. My grandboys coming in, So everybody else's eyes are on you. But as the parent, you know.
So you're not among the grandparents that anyone should be worried about?
No, I don't think they should.
Because the grandparents are the ones that usually give children the leeway and spoiling them and stuff like that.
No. Although, it was when you're very happy to see them, I gave them the option, what would you like Granny to pick up for you?
Right. Right.
Yeah, so you give them the option, I hadn't seen them for a little while. What
Yes.
would you like Granny to pick up?
Right.
And it's one item.
Right.
And I know the rules of the house, nothing with a lot of sugar, so
Right. You follow the rules.
I
of
follow the rules
Right.
of the
You don't
house.
break that. That's
Yes.
So regarding the child development stages, would the parenting approach be different to the boy vis-a-vis the girl?
Boys and girls, in my opinion, have to be parented in the same way. Culturally, we have made a lot of errors when it comes to parenting our boys, in that we paid a lot more attention to the girls and especially the teenage years, the adolescent years, and girls were made to feel that their chores were in the house.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I believe that a well-rounded boy or girl must be brought up the same way, that they must be taught to do the washing, the cooking, sharing the chores, both in and out of the house. That is my personal opinion. I've seen it work, that my children, I have 2 girls and a boy, and all of them can do. From ironing, from 9 years, my son said, "Mom, I'll do all my clothes," because he felt I was not ironing it the way he wanted it done.
9 years old.
He was 9. So, and now he says, "Mom, don't worry with my clothes," because he has his own method of washing, putting his clothes into the washing machine.
Right.
So you raise them a certain way, but both boys and girls benefit,
So what is your take on parents who say to the little boys don't cry, girls should cry?
Oh my goodness gracious, that's one of the things that pains my heart a lot. I always say, our men have not been allowed to become sensitive beings because we want to make them tough.
Yeah.
And toughness is not the way forward to becoming a caring individual. One who can feel the sensitivity and develop empathy for others. The only way you can do that is if you have walked it yourself.
That's right.
So I always say, you cry. Men should be allowed to cry. Our boys, and many times I see it, I speak to the parents about it, the ones who are acting the toughest, when I go to them, when they think I'm coming to read the Riot Act, as I say to them, don't let me come and read the Riot Act to you. I would go and touch their head, and it brings a sense of, peace and quiet to those same boys that everybody tells you are so bad. So the sensitivity that is required can be taught. What you do to them, how you speak to them, what they see you do, and whether you do it to the dog, the chicken, or whatever it is, the next door neighbor, the way you interact. And I believe we have to raise them all to share the same values, to understand that we are all human beings. And of late, I've been saying it many times, even Jesus wept.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why can't we allow our men to cry? Why do our men have to bottle up? And it's the bottling up that can really create the mental health issues for both men and women.
correct.
If you are not able to express, and this is something that we as a nation must work on. When men meet, do they ever speak to each other about some of the difficulties, some of the pain,
don't
or
think
that one's trying to show they're more macho than the other
Yes.
one, and everything is always good? And
That
then,
is true.
then they drown their sorrows in drinking, and which is not good.
Yes.
And then they either go back home, and because they have lost the sense of self,
Yeah.
domestic violence erupts, and that is not good for creation of good families at all.
That's correct. So let's look at the flip side. Do you think that there is a man that is too soft? Because I've heard girls say, mate, I'm not interested in mate too soft, mate crying at anything. Does that exist, or what do you think about that?
Well, there are some men who are extremely sensitive And again, it is teaching how to deal with issues in life that might be very traumatic, that the individual becomes, so what's the word I want? They give in and become so very emotional that you think that they are soft men. But there is nothing wrong with a man who is ultra sensitive, or one who is able to empathize and cry with
Easily,
you,
yes.
and come and hug you. And I was in St. Vincent and became friend with this young man, and he was gay, but he was somebody who was so ultra sensitive, understanding. And when I had to drive to Barrowley, he would say, "You're not driving by yourself. I will have to accompany you." He had this heart. It's a good heart, So I don't think we have to judge people, and because we are all different. We are all different, and we have to accept and see the good in each other.
So, if you're just joining us, we're talking with Mrs. Anthony Fortuna Anthony Husbands this afternoon, and she's giving us some very insightful tips on parenting. We'll take a break, and then when we come back, we'll listen to you by opening our lines.
One in 3 women around the world are victims of physical or psychological repression. End it now. More than 135 million girls and women have undergone female genital mutilation, and an additional 2 million girls and women are at risk each year, 6,000 every day. End it now. In the United States, 1 woman is battered every 15 seconds, usually by her husband or boyfriend. End it now. 1 in 5 women around the world will be the victim of rape or attempted rape in her lifetime. End it now. Why now? Because we can't wait.
Welcome back, everyone, to Mind Your Business. This afternoon, we are having an engaging discussion once again with Mrs. Fortuna Husbands Anthony, and she's giving us some insight on parenting. Remember, our lines are open to you so that you can call and give us your insight and ask your questions that you may have, or provide us with situations that you may need help with, as we discuss with our guests this afternoon. And remember, our numbers 4521011 and 4619647. You can call us. Our lines are indeed open this afternoon. Yes, we want to continue the discussion into dealing with various situations that may come up as a parent, and the ways in which you can deal with it. And these situations are number one, what if your child is being bullied? How do you deal with that as a parent?
Well, as a parent, if your child is being bullied at school, there is a clear procedure that can be followed. First, you will observe signs of bullying. Your child might come home and your child might look sad. Your child might have a bruise. Your child might begin to isolate himself from you. The child becomes a little more quiet. And if you have developed that bond and you observe those traits, you will need to be able to hear from the child. How do you probe the child is important. I noticed you came in today and you had a bruise on your arm. What happened? Did you fall? I noticed you look sad. What happened? You didn't make friends today, or did your friends not play? So you begin to probe and ask questions of the child. If there is that trusting relationship between you and your child will open up and explain what is going on. Okay? you as a parent, the Education Act is clear. You can go to the principal. You call the principal and you say you're going to come and you have a conversation with the principal. I notice these days people refuse to understand that there is legislation, there are laws. You cannot go into a schoolyard and want to deal with anybody else's child. That's against the law. So your first procedure is the principal. The principal's reaction would have to be one where the principal can deal with the other parent in your presence or have different sessions with you and the other child and the other child's parent. If it is a minor form of bullying, you can bring the two children together and she will speak to both of them, make them apologize to one another. If it is something that persists, the principal of the school will have to deal with it at another level. Okay? The parents would be spoken to and they would be told what the consequences would be. If the parent feels that they are not getting the right recourse, the education officer for the district is available to go to. If you cannot get the right recourse where your child is being hit and your child is now becoming emotionally unstable, you see the chief education officer in the Ministry of Education to deal with this matter. But I do not subscribe to parents going into schools to hold on to other people's children or to create ruckus in the schoolyard. That is not the example that we want. We do not resolve conflicts like that. So if your child is being bullied, you deal with it like that. If your child is a bully, you, the parent, have to begin to deal with this child at home. What is it that this child is seeing at home? Is the child seeing domestic violence? Is the older sibling doing something to the child? Anybody in the community, so that the child feels that there is need to, become self-defensive. You speak to your child, you give your child simple strategies as to why they should not bully anybody else's child. What are the consequences of bullying? They become unpopular. You cannot make friends. You'll not be invited to parties. And those simple things depending on the age of the child. But you have to examine your home to see what is being taught in the house while your child will want to bully somebody else's child.
Very good. Remember, our lines are open. You can call us if you need to express and to ask any questions. Let's move on to the other one, which is poor academic performance.
I wanted to ask quickly.
You wanted
in
to
instance
ask
where
about
a child is a bully, right? And also, I at least what I did once. It's also if your child is going to the homes of anyone, is being parented by a sibling. Sometimes it's always important to notice what's happening there, because what I noticed at least in one situation where I had to deal with is that they were learning this behavior or that style and being encouraged there to be a bully at school. So don't be a little boy, and if anybody does that to you, take charge and so on and so forth. So it wasn't the weakness or the wrong parenting was not at the home, but where the child was being sent.
So it goes back to what we say. You have to know where your child goes, who your child mingles with. You parents must be observant. I'm going to use that word again. The next door neighbor, do you know what is happening inside of their house or their home? Do you hear and see the behavior of their own children? And then you speak to your child. You can curtail a lot of time spent where your child will learn bad habits. you know.
Right.
So that's one of the things, you know, you curtail the amount of time your child spends in this other household, and you even speak to the child about the habits that they must not, you know, emulate.
Yes.
Thank you.
Poor academic performance.
I'm smiling because that's a St. Lucian. I want to hear the St. Lucian reaction to this.
Which one? The poor academic performance.
Yeah.
The child is not doing well at school when it comes to doing their schoolwork. How do you deal with this one?
In this day and age of education,
Before you go there, let's take that call. Happy afternoon to you. You're on the air.
Good afternoon.
Good
Hi,
afternoon.
Good
afternoon.
afternoon to Pastor Lee David.
Hi, good afternoon.
That's Sister Monroe.
Hello, Sister Monroe.
I raised my nieces. I don't have children, but they told me, Auntie, it wasn't for you. How I would have a good self-esteem like that. It wasn't for you. How I will know God. And she's working on the cruise ship, and she have to go all around the world. She made mistakes, but she went to Monroe College and she covered up for all the mistakes. And now she has that job. She told me she'll come back to see about me. Okay?
Thank you, Sister Monroe.
All right.
So, what you said is true.
Praise the Lord.
And can elaborate a little more, because the people, they don't have, when you talk to them, they say they don't know this, they don't know that. We are in a don't know business. Okay?
Yes. So true.
so very true, so very true.
Yeah.
And you must have done a lot of good spiritual work with her, that even if she has made some mistakes, and none of us are perfect, all of us are fragile, that she has kept good reputation, that, you know, the mere fact that she says she will come back to look after you means that you have developed good character in her, because these days, you know, a lot of young people do not want to return to look after their older family members, etc., etc. So God be praised that you raised her well.
Amen.
Lovely.
Yes, so poor academic performance.
Poor academic performance. It is how we define education. I've been giving a lot of thought to the definition for education, and I've recognized that what we might see as poor academic performance, that a child is not doing well in the maths and the English and the other thing, has helped us to overlook the strength that child has.
Point.
And to use the strength to build on the child's academics or the content. And I will give you an example. When I came back from England and started Entrepot Infant School, 3 young ladies, I call them young ladies, were transferred to the school. And since I specialize in specific learning difficulties in terms of dyslexia, what prevents a child from being able to relate to black and white prints and this sort of thing, the parents said to me, I'm sending them there because I think they will do well at Entrepot Infant School. We were at the time. And of course, when I assessed them, I realized that their chronological and reading ages were years apart. But all of them had talents. One, she could not read, but we taught her to read through her talent, singing. Right now, she's one of the big names in St. Lucia.
Okay.
The other 2 went off to university. So for me, the message is, how do we approach what we call underperformance? Do we take sufficient time in the education system to look at the strengths of that child and use the strengths to turn their weaknesses into successes? That is how I see it. But we are in a system where our children are just measured by that academic performance. For today, I have shared something that somebody sent to me that in Finland, no exams.
Right.
So it's the freedom of education. And I have used a lot of research work done. And for the Our Boys Matter program, I've introduced what we call an alternative pathway to education, where the boys are not doing very well academically, they're underperforming, so they are now reaching the stage of dropping out of school. Have a conversation with them and their parents. What would you like? What career choice would you like? And I've been finding places where I attach them, and they're working at the skills, because I believe in education, and those who are not academically bent, you must see their strengths and allow them the opportunity to do the things that they really feel passionate about. You want to be auto mechanics, so I attach you at a garage, and when the time comes and it is right, we can then have you certified using the approach that TVET now uses, that you can work, you do your portfolio and this sort of thing. And it has worked. It has worked, and I think underperformance is something that labels children a common entrance too early. We need to begin to look at, don't just allow children to drop out. Don't let them believe that they are failures, but that you can use their strengths and their talents to make them become very productive, very happy citizens.
Right. So using that same scenario, what advice do you have for parents who do not have the capacity to determine whether the child is performing below par or above par, to highlight the strengths or the weaknesses?
A lot of parents do not spend sufficient time looking at children's report books. The same way a lot of teachers are not taking sufficient time in recording children's ability. Okay? When you look at a report book and you see highest mark 82 and your child is getting 26, parents themselves become very demotivated because they probably do not know what to do, where to go.
Right.
Okay? And I've always encouraged parents, especially if we find out your own years of schooling does not allow you to be able to provide the support. There must be somebody, a friend, somebody in the community that you can go to who will help you to understand what is happening to that child. You do not wait until that child is ready to graduate. And graduating is not the way that you measure a child's academic performance. You want the parents to be able to pick up very early that there is need for help. The Ministry of Education has a special ed section that you, if you're concerned, if you are worried, that you can take the child, you go to the principal. Normally it's the principals that would recommend seeing the specialist in the special ed unit. So there are ways, but do not wait too late.
Perhaps embarrassment is hindering that step.
No parent should feel embarrassed if your child is not a high flyer. Okay? No parent should be
embarrassment. The parent himself or herself cannot even read or write, so that might be a hindering.
Yes, their own limitations.
Yeah.
Well, yes, their own limitations, and that is why people always have people that they can relate to, and schools are supposed to be able to pick up parents who are not up there with it. What do you do to assist the parents so that they too can assist the child? So sometimes I used to say, when you send the child home with so much homework and the parent cannot even read and write, what do you expect to happen? And not even sometimes read and write, but there are other factors that are mitigating. There's no electricity. For COVID, I had my hands full. No connectivity, no devices, but yet boys are expected to write CSEC. You know, what do we do? So we found solutions to that. It is the same thing that parents must, and I say parents must, see the red flags very, very early in the lives of their children. A child who is underperforming shows a number of red flags very early. They don't want to read. Okay, in this day and age, I will just go right back. Are you parenting, or is your television or the device parenting your child?
Right.
There is so much screen time that a child should be exposed to. You know, when a child is in front of a screen, the screen is talking, but the child is not interacting. If you want to watch television with your child, the best methodology is to sit down. When the program is finished, you begin to look for reasoning comprehension. So you're asking questions.
Yes.
Tell me, and then you're looking for talent. Can you draw what you saw, or draw it the way you saw it or heard it? These are the kind of little things that you don't have to have money to do. But some parents tell you the time, they have to hustle. If you're going to hustle without spending time with the child, at some point in time, the consequences will be more than
You know? More time. You spend more time.
Let's go to the phone lines. Happy afternoon to you. You're on the air.
Yes, hello, good afternoon, Sunshine. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Nathaniel, are you there? How are you?
No, he's not. I'm sitting in for him,
Okay, all right. Pastor David, you okay?
I'm doing okay, you know, Marcus. I'm doing okay, very good.
Right, but Alvin, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I was hoping you'd call my name, you know. I'm waiting for
Okay, of course, Alvin.
Yeah.
I'll not forget you. Because you are the co-host of this program. You mind your business, you know. And I mind my business, you know.
Yes.
You have a very interesting topic this afternoon.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good afternoon to your guests.
Good afternoon, Mr. Marcus, I'm hearing.
Yes, how are you?
Good. It's nice to have you on board.
Thank you.
Share your experiences with us.
Well, I'm not experiencing, but I'm not share. I don't share my experience, but I want to ask one question.
Yes, go ahead.
The experience I want to share will take too long.
Okay.
And you don't have time to wait.
Okay.
But let me ask one question.
Yes, go ahead.
If a child is in Form 1, Form 2, doing well at school, and that child is Form 3 and his grades start to drop, right? He's actually troublesome and his grades drop in Form 3. And he doesn't do well in academics. How do you address that situation? How do you address that child? Can I mention him of a student school?
No, you don't have to.
Don't mention the school.
Okay.
You as the parent, you were saying the child is doing very well in
Form 1, Form 2.
Form 1, Form 2. These are the transition years from primary school, and Form 1 is normally just a repetition of the common entrance grade 6 work. Now, as the work becomes more challenging, it means the home environment has to begin to change. How do you get that child when that child comes from school? What is the routine in the home? Okay? The routine might be they come in, they take out their uniform, they get something to eat, something to drink. If they have, I believe that every child should have some chores to do in the house. They do their chores. And do you set aside time for them to go and do homework? How many hours of homework? Do you say to them, do you have any homework? Okay, let me see the homework. Even if you cannot do the homework, let me see the homework. Okay, then go and do your homework and how many hours they spend. When they're finished doing it, if you or somebody in the house can look over the homework, you do that to see that they have done it correctly.
Very interesting.
And then you find words to praise the child. As they become better and better, you keep them motivated so that that child knows somebody is paying an interest in the work that they're doing.
You know?
Yes?
But what you are saying that doesn't happen with every child, and not all parents are that way. What you are saying is not all parents that apply that, those principles, you know?
Right.
But what you are saying is very important, and I appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Marcus.
You answer me very well. Thank you very much.
All righty.
Have a good day.
You as well. Bye-bye.
We have
Let's move on to the other scenario because we have about 6 minutes left.
Okay.
Right.
And I need her to touch the suicidal.
Okay,
Yes.
so maybe we can go to that.
Yes.
Suicidal thoughts.
And
What
then
if a
come to
child has suicidal thoughts? How do you deal with that as a parent?
Well, normally, as we find, and the statistics are very clear, that as the child gets older, and if the parenting is not moving with the times, we would find that our children begin to have suicidal ideation. And you as the parent should be able to pick up. Again, I'm going to talk about the red flags. What kind of teenager, because normally it's teenagers and adolescents that begin to show what we can also say the mental health issues, because they are torn in certain ways between adulthood and childhood, the demands that are made on them, the stresses that are placed on them, especially if the home is one where the parents are not there or it becomes dysfunctional. And the red flags would become very, very clear. It's either that child is not coming home after school, it's either that child becomes very secretive, it's either that child begins to lose appetite, they want to close themselves, isolate themselves from the rest of their siblings, the family. You know, they do not become talkative. If at one point in time they went out and they had friends, they no longer want to go out and hang out with their friends. You as the parent can see those things. Some parents tend to ignore those signals, okay? But these are clear signals that something is not right. And as the parent, again, we come back. What kind of bond did you form with that child? Okay? What kind of bonding? Was there the trust? Was there the ability for your child to see you not just as a parent, but also as a friend? Are you going to just ignore those things so that the child begins to see nobody cares? Okay? And then they find friends outside, or they find somebody else on the outside who is not able and capable of assisting them in dealing with the issues. The issues might be many. It might be that the young people nowadays, I find parents are always very quick. They have boyfriend and girlfriend. They breaking up very early, boyfriend and girlfriend, and they're using all the terms that to show that they have broken up and with one another. So you have to be aware of that, and you must have a conversation again. How you approach that young boy or young girl is critical. I noticed that your tone of voice is very important. You're not going to push, you're not going to be shouting, but you're going to go to them with a calm and quiet disposition. I noticed that you look a bit withdrawn. Is there anything that I can do to help you? You know, you ask the question.
But when they're having these suicidal thoughts, wouldn't it be urgent that the parent get outside help?
Not necessarily so quickly. You as the parent, you will know whether the child is having those suicidal thoughts. If in the household there's quarreling, they will drop statements. I prefer to kill myself. I should get out of there. When you hear that as a parent, you have to take stock of yourself. If you cannot manage, then yes, counselors are available. The crisis center is there, you know. your own environment. There are cases that I've had to deal with when there is domestic violence in the home. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of stress on the child. You are really throwing their mental life or mental health in disarray. Some children will tell you they cannot take it anymore. So I've had a case where, domestic violence, and the young man, when he turned 16 and he saw the situation late at night, he was going to commit himself.
Wow.
They called me at 11 o'clock. I arranged next day for them to go to, spoke to both the mother and the young boy, arranged for crisis center next day, and this sort of thing. But because by nature...
Let's hold that thought, this caller. Good afternoon, you're on the air.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Very interested program. Very, very interested.
Praise the Lord.
God bless you. Let me tell you, miss. You see, children of today, they are very, very, sometimes of them are very mischievous. You understand? Because sometimes they just feel like being that the world out there, they're seeing the beauty, the things that friends are having, and they just go into it. But you see, parents, sometimes parents don't have to blame all the time. Their parents are not even eating. They're feeling sorry to see the way the children out there, and they're reaching out for them, and the children is running away. You understand? Unless they catch, sometimes some of them, they will really see they have a parents. Because if you go at the prison, and you watch the amount of young boys that there, and they have a mother, they have a father, they have everything they can want in their home. But to them, the outside, the world outside, that's where they want to be. It's not much time, it's the parents. You see what the law has to do in this country is build up like a boot camp, something where because if a young girl do something wrong out there, where they will house her? They will just have her in the streets back again. So we have the Uptown Girls Garden Center is not running functionally. Put things in place. So when these children do this, get their 70 problems, we have place to put them, because sometimes the parents is willing, the parents is innocent. It's true there are parents out there that is encouraging, but it's not all of them. You understand? Yeah. It's a very ticklish thing, because the children is seeing the world out there, the beauty, the nice cars, nice clothes, dressing all kind of a way. They want to be in it too. Because they want to feel, because they're the adults, some of the adults behaving just like the children.
Okay, caller, I had to cut it short because of time. Okay. Yes, thank you.
The caller is talking about some points that, yes, but when what we are saying is, if from very early you raise the child in a particular way, you teach that child to be a contented individual. You teach that child not to be swayed by peers and others. That child learns to be caring. That child learns to be loving. That child understands that they have to wait to become mature individuals to want to see the bright lights of the outside world. I think, again, it depends on the conversations. I'm not saying that mothers do not try or families do not try, but sometimes the grounding is not there. The foundation is not solid enough that children do not remember what they are taught. So we have to always reinforce what we say to them. You said that they must put them away, and they must probably upturns and probably the prisons. It's because of some of the failings that those children end up in those places. But we need, I will always say, and I've advocated, we need good places to put our children. And this is one thing I've always said. If I had the money, I would have built a proper place to put children who are in difficulty, where I would have good house mothers and house fathers, people who are well grounded in their own spirituality and understanding of self, that they would raise those children, and those children would go to school, those children would learn how to do a bit of farming to feed themselves, but they would be in an environment where they do not feel like they are imprisoned. But so far, I have not been able to get the money, but I'm hoping
and that was the appeal.
You know, I am hoping that somewhere that when the government decides to create homes, that they take those things into consideration.
Yes, let me just give some comments here on the Facebook platform before we do our final thoughts, because we are over time now. I need to speak to the manager on that. One says, it is so good to see Miss Fortuna. She taught me at River Dory Anglican Primary School. Hers was a great influence on me. Another one says, very interesting program, because when a child has gone through an institution for 8 years and still not able to read properly, it speaks volumes to the competence and the ability of those educators to assist in the child's weakness. Another one says, most times what happens is that a stigma is placed on the child, and as a consequence, the child is demotivated to do better.
It's true. Yes, true.
It has been an exhilarating, I think I can use that word, conversation this afternoon with you, and we thank you and we appreciate your feedback, your insight. It seems like every time you speak on a topic, I'm in awe. I was very quiet.
Can I just take that last call? Yes. Final caller, you're on the air.
Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you.
I'm calling from the St. Lucia Crisis Center in Miss Isidore, and I really want to commend your guests for the many problems that plague our society currently, especially amongst the young. We really need to continue to foster greater relations, to at least have more of such programs to really help in sensitizing the young people and the society as a whole, because the problems are alarming.
Yes. We'll have to invite you to the program.
You don't expect a call from us. That's what I was about to say.
Definitely.
So you caught me right there.
Exactly.
Expect a call from us.
Definitely.
Yes. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Yes,
Keep up the good work at the Crisis Center. Keep up the good work. You all are always very responsive.
Thank you. And you keep up the good work as well.
Thank you.
By God's grace. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Welcome.
That's
Bye-bye.
an excellent point to end that.
Yes. Final thoughts, quickly.
Well, I have one quotation there from Conflict and Courage. In cultivating that which is best in themselves, parents are exerting an influence to mold society and to uplift future generations. And another one says, be what you wish to be. Be what you wish your children to be.
Final thoughts, Miss Fortuna.
Well, my final thoughts will go right back to what is our duty to God and what is our duty to our neighbors. Okay, our duty to God, serve Him, take time to spend time with Him. And our duty to our neighbors is to treat them the way we want to be treated, to be fair and just in all we do.
Amen to that. Yes.
If we borrow the quotation from Child Guidance, neglect of duty, injudicious indulgence, failure to restrain or correct the follies of your youth will result in unhappiness and finally ruin to the children and disappointment and anguish to parents. And as we end, remember, wherever we go and whatever you do, mind your business.
Thank you for tuning in. We hope that this program has helped you to understand a little more your God-given responsibility to care for one another. Join us next Wednesday at 2 p.m. for another episode on Mind Your Business with Pastor Leroy David and Alvin Flores.